You're listening to Welcome to Eloma, a podcast for highly ambitious dreamers who get shit done. I'm your host, Kiley Peters. This is a space where we talk about mastering your pitch. Now, this topic is truly fascinating to me, mostly because I absolutely hate pitching. I hate it. I hate pitching. I hate sales. But as entrepreneurs, we know that this is really important. And as an entrepreneur, I have sold millions of dollars worth of services. But I would really love to find a less painful way to do so moving forward. And maybe that's just mindset. But today's guest is going to help us hopefully alleviate some of those pains for any entrepreneurs listening who are like, yeah, sales important, but I don't want to. Yeah, right. I saw today's guest, 13-time national elevator pitch champion, also known as the Killer Pitch Master, Precious L. Williams, speak at the Idea Collective retreat in November of 2022. And in my opinion, and maybe it's not an opinion, it's probably just a straight up fact, she slayed the main stage. You may have seen her, though, on Shark Tank, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Forbes magazine, Black Enterprise magazine, Essence magazine, or maybe even the movie Leap. With clients such as Microsoft, LinkedIn, Google, Yelp, and Harvard, she is a dynamic international professional speaker, an effective corporate trainer, and a 4 times #1 best-selling author. Precious Al Williams brings an incredible energy to the table, and, well, her accolades speak for themselves. I'm super excited to jump into this conversation of mastering your pitch because, again, as entrepreneurs, we all know we need to get better at this. And it also tends to be something that is just not super fun for a lot of people. So let's talk about that delegating and let's learn from the pro. Welcome to Eloma, Precious.
I'm so excited to be here on Eloma. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Okay, so Precious, talk to me a little bit about how you determined that pitching was your zone of genius and how you decided to turn it into your career.
Honestly, I didn't know that pitching was going to be my zone of genius. I've been a professional speaker since I was 16 years old. I'm 43.
Okay.
But what I think is so funny is when your back is against the wall, all types of things will come out of you, all types of creativity. And since no one wanted to invest in my first company, Curvy Girls Lingerie, I had to figure out something. You know, I didn't want to be an attorney anymore. I was definitely disgruntled in New York State. And like I said, I went to an event I could not afford and pitched on the spot, not thinking, not putting all the words together, and nailed it. And that led me to being on Your Business with JJ Ramberg 10 years ago. And in 54 seconds, I walked away with $500,000. What? It's crazy today when you think
that's a great ROI. That's a great ROI.
What? Can we talk about it? But also, when my back was against the wall, I think sometimes for some people, it's when they fall, it's like, no, I got nothing left to lose. So I'm going to swing. When I say dream big, like my motto for this year was dream big, ask bigger. So when times get rough, what are you going to do? You can feel sad for a little while, but what am I going to take from this, right? And so the investors told me enter pitch competitions because they wanted to see like would I measure up, but also they just thought I pitched very different. And so I entered 14 competitions and came out on top 13 times, and people were literally wanting to throw money at me. So part of my bio is that like prospects are wanting to throw money at you because it happened to me. That's and amazing. You don't run from it so long. You can only run from it so long. And I was like, well, let me take on beta clients and just see what happens. And all 2 of my clients won first place in pitch competition. I was like,
okay,
jigga who? Jigga what? Okay. And then it made me start Perfect Pitches by Precious because it's natural to me.
Yeah.
And I do think it's part of, I've been speaking for so long, but when I started, other people were writing for me, but I write pitches. And it's so fun to listen to people, how they describe their businesses in oral or written form versus what I'm really hearing is going to resonate. And also having the gift of understanding who they need to be in front of and not who they keep saying everybody else be in front of. I'm like, you need to be in a different industry. So that is how it started. And to look back, trained over 300 plus pitch champions, have seen them on Shark Tank and all these other shows, and never think that pitching would take me from being broken and mad as an attorney to being on shows around the world, to being written about in the biggest publications. So that's how it started. And I love it.
Okay. So that's how it started. All right. Okay. You just gave me so many things to nibble on there. 54 seconds, you walked away with $500,000. You mentioned that one of your gifts is kind of listening to how people talk about their businesses in written word and then like actually listening to it. So talk to me a little bit about, some of the mistakes maybe, or, screw ups that you hear entrepreneurs specifically talk about where you're like, ooh, nope, don't do that. Flip it this way. Something like that.
Okay. So have you ever been at networking events? And people are saying that, like, my name is this is what I do. By the sixth person you done checked out, you're looking at your phone, you're hoping paint is drying somewhere, you're hoping for something. The reason why is, number one, most pitches are boring. You're not bringing any energy to the table. And you also really don't know how to talk about your business in a way that captivates and titillates, right?
Okay.
Number two, you're pitching to the wrong audience. So this would be the right message, the wrong audience.
Okay.
Number three, your target market doesn't even know you're talking to them because it sounds generic. Number four, there is no real call to action. Like, what do you want them to do afterwards? If you notice, when I was on stage at the Idea Collective Retreat 2022, #IC Retreat 22, I came in with a different type of energy. Like, I wanted a different type of song when I walked in. And it happened to be Nicki Minaj's Moment for Life. Half of the people may not have ever heard that song. But when I walked out, I wanted to walk into, even if you don't know the song, I'm going to rise this energy.
Yeah.
When I got on stage, I had a sparkly jacket and I had this one shoulder jumpsuit with a gold band around. Mm-hmm. Just so you know, I was supposed to wear yellow that day. My stylist wanted me to put on yellow. And I said, nah. Okay. First of all, and there was a reason, because I had been watching you all and I saw where the other speakers came from. So I said, we're not doing that. And I'm going to come from this other side and I'm going to do something dramatic. So on stage, if you know, I said, can I take my jacket? Like, I took it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We about to go in because you've never seen a big girl do it like me. Right? So here's another thing. Some people don't inject humor, or they think because they're an introvert, they can't use that to their advantage. And you can. Yeah. Right? So I'm gregarious, but when I started, people weren't doing it like me. They weren't. And I preceded Shark Tank. Remember that. So understanding all of those things, a lot of people are just boring because they don't know any better, or they go to the Google School of pitching and they're just using a template that was not meant for them. They think that if they're talking to investors, make it boring and just throwing on a whole bunch of numbers. Wrong. And then just not understanding that the audience you're in front of may be related to the audience you're eventually going to sell to. So that's why I say pitching ain't easy, but it sure is fun once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
So, being able to work with tech companies, financial services companies, people who generally don't speak the language of what you really want to hear, and jazzing it up, but also teaching as a teaching lesson. So even as I was on stage, it was not lost on me that I'm going to entertain you, but you all are going to learn today from someone who you might not have thought you were going to learn from. I don't have the name Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or Les Brown, but you are never going to forget what I do.
Yeah. Okay.
So every time you pitch is a great opportunity.
Oh, for sure. Okay. So my question here is, so I come from a marketing background, right? We talk a lot about positioning and branding, et cetera. But what I'm hearing you say is like, that's all well and good. But when you get in front of somebody, you have to kind of tweak your approach. So how would you, I'm hearing you say like, be entertaining, don't be boring, be specific about who you talk about or you're talking to. But how would you say for anybody else who's like trying to think about how do I take my marketing and my positioning, et cetera, and morph it into like the words that come out of my mouth in a networking conversation, a pitch conversation, et cetera. What would you say is the pivot, the shift there?
So I think the shift comes down to packaging, positioning, and then pitching, right? And
Okay.
so one of the things that when I'm at networking groups, you will hear that they're marketing or social media marketing. You will hear people who do similar things, but the way to describe it will be boring, or it'll be so like, I don't believe you at all. Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
sure.
when so again, like sometimes when I walk in, ladies, raise your hands if you want to be a bad bitch with a power bitch. They're like, did she just say that? Yes, I did. Clutch your pearls and raise your hands. And you already see it, right? The thing I love to do is interrupt the pattern. And I said this to y'all at the event, interrupt the pattern of boring. So the pattern is, my name is this is what I do. If you got 30 seconds, go ham on it. Throw out a question, a startling statistic, or a quote. They're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is they dropping phones. They don't care about the phone. They're like, yo, I just heard something I never heard. And a woman and like, you don't have to throw out a curse word. You could, like, there are a lot of different ways. But when I say a question, a startling statistic, or a quote, right? Think about that. Number two, you want to set a scene in the audience's mind of where you want them to go. So when I came on stage, I'm on that Moment for Life, slaying Goliath with the sling. There's a reason why I was saying that. Because if you don't, people will just be going anywhere and everywhere. And you're like, no, I want you to focus on this, because this is where I'm going to show you my zone of genius. So you might have heard people talk about marketing, or they might have talked about financial services, or they might have talked about, I don't know, being a funeral director. But I'm going to throw a twist on it. Because you're thinking, oh, I'm only going to see you with, I might see you when I'm dead or whatever. But what about the people if they make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
So remember, your end user might not be the people in front of you, but they are going to refer you to the person who will. Mm-hmm. So you have to make it memorable. And, definitely starting from the question, starting statistic or a quote, you're not waiting for the answer. Trust me, you're not waiting for the answer. But what you've given them is, now they're paying attention. Yeah. What is the challenge or problem right then and there? Even if when I was on Shark Tank, those men probably were dating or married to women who were very thin. And yet what they understood when I said over 40 million women, so that's 14 or larger, just like me, and we all want pretty underwear. Or when I throw out, I'm a whole snack, come fetch me. You're not expecting a full thing to say that. You're not. You're like, what? Yes, I said it. And people started laughing. But what he did is now they're paying attention from the front row to the back. Mm-hmm. And then, when you're describing the problem or challenge, this is why you have to set the scene. So they see themselves, oh, she's talking to me. One of the things that the Idea Collective, there was a speaker right after me who spoke on, 6 figures in your speaking business. Mm-hmm. No, what would we put together? We do similar things, but we were not the same. Mm-mm. Why? Because the audience needed to hear both sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. See, some people may think that I'm all like energy and personality. I'm here to tell you I'm not. The biggest companies in the world don't hire me, have not hired me all these years because I'm a big personality. You can hire Oprah. So in saying all of that, even in your written form, because some marketers, they're never in front of the people. Some of y'all are never in front of the people who will eventually buy services. True. So what needs to come across in your written word? And that's why I said pitching is not just oral. It's also in what you write. If you want to approach a reporter, if you want to report someone in media, what are you going to say? Mm-hmm. Because they ain't looking for paragraph upon paragraph. How do you get in there real quick, fast, and in a hurry? But you make such an impression on them that you are the only choice that matters.
I'm taking notes over here.
Girl, I'm with it. I'm with it. And this is why I love being on great podcasts and doing great interviews, because you explore something that most people only think is for investors or for getting in media or at networking events. No, there's 6 forms of pitching. And you need to have them all. The speakers, so many speakers, they're asked to speak for free. Not me. Mm-hmm. I expect payment for my value, but also I got the credibility, the testimonials, and the results that most don't have. Yeah. So be careful with the wording you're using. If it sounds like what everybody else is using, and I know people say, oh, don't reinvent the wheel. Well, some of us are creative enough that the wheel doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I want to circle back because you said 2 things that I've got questions on. You said 6 ways to pitch. For all of our listeners, can you tell us the 6 ways to pitch?
So there's the elevator pitch, the media pitch, the investor pitch, the sales pitch, the speaker pitch, and the interview pitch. The interview pitch is really like you see the students, high school students, college students, going after the position of their dreams or to get that internship. The speaker pitch, whether you are a novice to an experienced one, you're going to find times where people aren't reaching out to you. It's because they don't know your zone of genius or you have not been top of mind. Mm-hmm. Why do you think I go by the killer pitch master or the pitch queen?
Oh, I'm sure it's very intentional.
Very much. It's like I slay all competition.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter if you put me on the stages with the so-called best speakers in the world. I'm not afraid.
No, you're an amazing force.
But you have to think about it. Ric Flair from WWF way back when to WWE, he said, to be the best, you got to beat the best. I'll meet you. And I will rise to the occasion because you're already established. And I'm coming to take the crown. Sales pitch, all of us need it. All of it. If you're an entrepreneur, hell, if you're selling yourself, you need to have a sales pitch, right? Mm-hmm. Which can be in some ways similar or different from your elevator pitch. Some people aren't going to networking events or they're doing it online. I prefer live because then I can be as theatrical as I want. It's just standing there or sitting there. Mm-hmm. And then you have your media pitch. The quick and dirty way of getting to them that make them want to write about you, especially if you're seeking earned media. So people ask me, a billboard in Times Square, how did I get Forbes to write about two different books of mine? I ain't big, I ain't paid. But what I teach and what I tell, Bad Bitches and Power Pitches is the names of my first 2 books. What? How dare you have the audacity? Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, why not?
Why wouldn't I? And then you have, your elevator, your media, your investor. A lot of people are looking for angel investors or VC capital for their firm, for their companies to grow and expand. What are you going to say to them? Because it can't just be reciting numbers. You have to dress it up in a story. You have to be able to be captivating and titillating, and at the same time be the right jockey for that horse.
I like that analogy, the right jockey for that horse. Okay, thank you. Love that. It's a lot of things going through my head right now. So a lot of entrepreneurs might identify as extroverted and a lot may identify as introverted. Now, you're laying down all kinds of golden nuggets here, but for the introverts listening who are like, ooh, I don't want to disrupt patterns. I don't want to, what advice would you have?
You want clients? You want customers? What you want? I'm asking, I'm not asking you first, and I know where you're going because everyone asks me this question. I always think it's so funny because people are like, oh, well, you just get it because you're gregarious. Can we talk about this is not where it started? I was an attorney before this, and I was theatrical in the courtroom. I was wearing high pink and high purple suits. I was ridiculous in the way back. Come on now. I was ridiculous in the way back. Well, for my introverts, here's what I want you to know. Is I work with your strengths, and being the quiet storm is what you are. Can you imagine facing off with 12 to 15 of me? You're going to need that quiet storm who's going to come in and stand. May drop a set of books. May whistle, because it's going to get your attention. And now that they got your attention, I tell them, treat them like Tupac. All eyes on it. And you can quietly, because everybody has someone in their life who's quiet when they speak. Nobody's speaking. They're like, they're about to drop some nuggets. Mm-hmm. And what you do as an introvert is you bring them to you. Okay. See, I started screaming and hollering. People are like, But a quiet storm has this quiet confidence. Yeah. They're not competing with me. They're here to show everybody else who are like them. This can be done. You might hear in media all the loud personalities, or maybe not loud, they're assumed to be a certain way. And then you meet them and you're like, they're not that. People have written about them, but they are not that. And it's fun. So my thing for our introverts is play to your strength. And being an introvert is a strength no matter what people tell you. It'd be a lot of people being loud and wrong.
That's
quiet,
true.
right? You say loud and wrong. Okay, quiet.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
But I always tell people, throw a set of books, drop a set of books. I mean, because they're going to have to be look. But it doesn't stop you from asking a question, a starting a quote. And again, you're not waiting. This is rhetorical because you keep it moving. Not like, and the thing is, when I speak, people go, "Whoa!" When introverts speak, they all leaning in like Sheryl Sandberg. I know the impact I have on an audience. I know.
Yeah.
And there was a time people said, "Man, that's too much." As what was that? Luther Vandross, never too much, never too much, never too much. We all have a place. We all have a place we all have a place.
Yeah.
Is Bill Gates loud? Is Mark Zuckerberg loud?
That's How much money lean into your strengths. Yeah.
How much money they got?
Yeah, a few bucks.
They lost a lot. How much money they got? Just a couple of dollars, right?
A few bucks. A few bucks.
Versus like a Mark Cuban. Versus like a Damon John.
True.
Different person. All of them paid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm because the world is not made for this one type of person.
No, I'm with you. Okay. So many things. All right. We've talked about this a little bit, but if you were to narrow down on like the number one thing that entrepreneurs screw up when it comes to their pitch, what would you say is the number one thing they screw up? And then the one thing that you want them to change or take away?
I think the number one thing that entrepreneurs screw up is not coming in confidently. It's not about faking it till you make it faith it. Faith it.
Okay.
So I'm scared off a lot. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'd be scared. Even when I walked in, I see like there was a moment right before I was walking towards the stage. I was like, I did everything different from everybody else. Is this gonna work? And I'm gonna keep going regardless. So I think the one thing is not bringing the confidence that what got you here can get you further. The second thing is, as you are pitching, you're really enrolling people into your vision and what it is that you're doing. So make it a story worth telling. Make it a pitch worth telling. And you have to use repetition and practice. Most people are trying to come off the dome, practice that stuff. Practice your pitches because it will sound so effortless. Trust. So like when I was on stage, could you tell that I had moments of just pure fear?
No.
I know, right? I did. like when our brother, what's his Brian, he got up there pitching. I'm like, you're supposed to be bad.
Yeah, he was. He was very good.
I was so mad. I was like, he's supposed to be bum. And he was great. But what do? I've been a speaker for 27 years. And I have a command of the stage. So I'm going to look for things. But I thought at y'all. What did y'all notice? Because, hey, you need to collect the brain sometimes. But being able to improvise. And that is something I pray that even when you're practicing, there are going to be things that are going to throw you off your ability to bounce back, honestly. There could be somebody like right now, as we're speaking, all of a sudden all this construction is happening. We keep it moving. Because regardless, I'm professional grade at what I do. Professional grade.
Okay, so confidence is what they screw up, and then make sure that you have a pitch worth telling.
You have to practice your pitches, right? You have to practice. And then as you're delivering it more and more, remember, confidence, just like your pitches, are muscles that need to be utilized. So you utilize them over and over, and you overcome so many doubts and challenges. Because I've been in pitch competition. It's like 10 years ago. I would be doing a pitch and forget where I was in my pitch because I had multiple pitches in my head. And I'm seeing the thing say 20 seconds. I didn't practice so much. I just slide on in and be done in 18 seconds. Trust. That's the value. That's the value of practicing. It sounds effortless. And let's say you have to read certain things, right? Let's say, if you're doing a 5-minute pitch, unless you are an actor, you quite get the first 2 minutes down, but just remember, you have a pitch deck, you have these other things in your arsenal. Utilize them.
Yeah, use your resources. Precious, so you mentioned in, a previous life, you were an attorney before, this certain, this specific area of expertise right now. What would you say is the single biggest moment or lesson you learned that led you to where you are today?
I remember when I was invited to audition for the movie Leap. It used to be called Coaching Movie. And they asked me to audition. I didn't know enough to ask questions. So I called my homeboy. He was a fake me out videographer. And I said, let's make me look big in New York. So I'm going all around the city. He's doing all this cool stuff with his phone and camera. We submitted it. Kind of proud. And I got it, right? I got it on the first try. Got it. Can I tell you, they said, Precious, we've never had somebody audition the way you did. You were really the queen of New York. We had never heard of you. And they said, why did you decide to audition like that? I said, because I didn't know any other way. Because I was an outsider, I wasn't bound by rules. And just like in pitching, like there were these standard templates that didn't resonate with me. Kind of like when I was an attorney, I could wear blue and black, but I need to flex. I can't just be looking like everybody else. Come on now. I like to come with color. And it's great to be the creative outsider. And so I was just at the Ascent conference, which is right after IC Retreat 2022. And I'm in a room with companies who, minimum revenue is $20 million and higher up into the billions.
Wow.
And I'm in this room not feeling like an imposter. And they hired me to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm in these spaces and I'm listening, and I heard conversations I've never heard. Because as a small business owner, we're thinking, well, big business have the same issues, just bigger. Well, what's also interesting is the type of questions that are asked, which get different answers. Me being an outsider, it was good to be in that space to hear what we often don't hear from CMOs, chief marketing officers, chief tech officers, chief information officers, the CEO. Like I heard things I had never heard before. Why was I in the space? Because what I do is so unique. And because I am a rule breaker. And because I am a trailblazer. So that's the first thing that came to mind that really showed me being an outsider is not a bad thing. You are not bound by rules you don't even know. So you do things that are so freaking creative, they don't even know. It's like my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. Come on now. So yeah, that's what it is. I own my zone of genius. I'm not a motivational speaker. The killer pitch myself, slaying all competition. Please go.
I love it. And you know what? That's also liberating. That's so liberating because I think so often we tend to get in our heads and we try to play by the rules or do what's right or do what's expected or like not screw it up. But if the only way to screw it up is to not break some of the rules because you didn't even know that they were rules in the first place, like just go for it. I think that's really liberating.
And I think most of us intuitively understand, like before Uber or Lyft, before Facebook or whatever, somebody had to say, well, let's try it. I mean, if it don't work, it don't work. And not being afraid, like, babe, I told you, my first company completed in 2016. Perfect Pitches by Precious has survived all of that and still around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what could have been seen as a failure? No, that was my stepping stone to get to where I am today. And as we go into another phase of my journey, I look back like when they said I was too fat, too black, didn't have an Ivy League degree. I didn't know I would eventually teach at Harvard and Columbia. I didn't realize I would teach at some of the greatest institutions on earth. I didn't realize that I would be in Forbes or Shark Tank. Like I didn't know. Mm-hmm. But that curiosity, that willing to go head to head with who they consider the best and leaving hands down like I am.
Yeah,
I am.
I love it. I love it. Now you alluded to this a little bit, so I'm gonna jump into it. You mentioned this next chapter that you're working towards. So tell us a little bit about what's coming next.
So what's coming next with Perfect Pitches by Precious is that we are rebranding. And so
Okay.
we will become the Perfect Pitch Group. And along with that,
Pitch group.
our clientele has changed over the years. So in the beginning, we were working with entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, anyone who needed help with pitching. Well, over time, as you know, as a marketing specialist like you are, that sometimes there'll be different things that happen and you'll find yourself in front of different groups you never thought you would. So I'm still going to be an international professional speaker, keynote speaker, top Fortune 500 corporate sales trainer. But with our new iteration, it is very clear who our clientele is going forward. And not that we won't work with individuals, but we are creating we're creating the Perfect Pitch Academy. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're creating the Perfect Pitch Academy. We're also creating different training programs and products for companies, corporations, foundations, and nonprofits. And it's with our own unique flair. So even if you think, oh, all these other people, they don't do it like we do. And last time I checked, I'm booked, busy, and paid for what I do. And so are my clients. And I love what it is because never did I think that these global companies would be reaching out to me, wanting what I do because it is different from what they're used to getting in for their sales teams and stuff like that. And then being able to showcase the supposed best schools in the world, that the pitch master has arrived. She's here. Even with your best students, I can break down a pitch and pull it back up real quick. And so I find that, with our academy, I find that with the Perfect Pitch Group, I find that it's not me anymore. It's creating the generation of pitch masters and certifying them and things like that. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So that's coming up next year.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's very exciting. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely keep us posted on that.
And definitely. And we still have digital training products and things like that. I'm very excited that my business stood the test of time.
Yeah.
It's not lost on me that I still get on stage and feel that nervous energy, or that things can go wrong. And listen, we're going to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it takes time. It takes confidence. It takes experience. It takes that faith in yourself of like, that's okay. We'll just get it there.
I'm speaking at my law school, Rutgers Law School. I'm speaking at LinkedIn for their interns. I train twice a year with LinkedIn for their Learning Week for their interns, working with different organizations that I never, and I'm still in the game of, I still win grants from my company. That's crazy, right? Because I know what I need to say about my company or others. So pitching is something you do every day. And once you realize that, how you talk to people, how you move in the world, the people you need to be around, the organizations you need to be around will totally transform, and you'll be around the people that can make things happen, and you'll become that mover and shaker and that connector. And it all started with pitching.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Okay. I have 2 more questions for you.
Go ahead, Queen.
All right. What impact do you want to make on the world, or what legacy do you want to leave?
I always loved that Beyonce song, I Was Here, written by Diane Warren. I want to leave a legacy, especially for women of a certain age. It ain't over. It just began. We embrace every flaw, perceived flaw, real flaw, and use it as your secret weapon. When they learn they're not bound by what society says, but by what their heart and their mind says, and the reason why they were created. I've always seen myself walking down the street, and as I'm walking, women are coming up beside me. And we've created a movement. And that not only is the best yet to come, it's right here. So if you want to teach and you want to train, if you want to be a coach, you want to be all the things that you see everybody else doing, it's time. And don't let age, race, class, sex, sexual orientation, differently able, disabled, don't let any of those things stop you. And it's in the imperfections that creativity is born.
Mm-hmm.
And never stop being hungry. And lastly, I want my grandmother and my grandparents to be celebrated. When people meet me, I want them to know if it hadn't been for Precious Dolores Williams and Raymond Woodrow Williams, I wouldn't be here, because they nursed the speaker in me. They nursed that I have the gift of connection, not just speaking, but connection. And that I don't hit from logic, I hit from emotion, which turns into logic. It makes a whole lot more sense when you take off the mask that grins and lies. And I did it with no front tooth. I remember I was speaking, I have a front tooth, and people were like, how do you do that? I was like, I got to show up regardless.
Yeah.
For those who think that you can't, you can.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
My last question for you. What is your greatest insight or discovery about life and entrepreneurship?
Oh, that's a good question. What was my greatest discovery? It ain't for everybody.
That's true.
Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. However, entrepreneurial tactics and techniques can be for everyone. But being an entrepreneur, you need to understand your tolerance and your risks. Understand your risk tolerance.
Yes.
You really need to understand that. And also to understand your family and friends are not your market. I hate to say it. I don't want to believe. They're not coming around till they see other people come around, which is a gift. Because you can get complete strangers to back you. That's what you needed all along, not your family and friends. I didn't create my earth for family and friends.
That's true. Well,
I created it for big divas, for women who were counted out, for men who thought they couldn't. Oh no, it's just getting started.
I love it. Thank you so much, Precious. I have so many notes over here, and I hope everyone who's been listening has been taking notes. If not, just re-listen to this episode. For anyone listening who wants to reach out and get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to get in contact with me, Precious L. Williams, Killer Pitch Master, aka the Pitch Queen, please go to my website right now as it stands, www.perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. On my site, you can find ways to work one-on-one with me, what my upcoming events are, whether they're in your neighborhood or not. You can also check out my 4 #1 best-selling books on pitching. And you can also just see how much fun I have and my clients have working together. On Facebook, I'm at Perfect Pitch P. On Twitter, I'm at Perfect Pitch P. And on Instagram, I'm at Perfect Pitches P. And on LinkedIn, I'm Precious L. Williams, Killer Pitch Master. And on YouTube, I'm Perfect Pitches by Precious. So you have an abundance of ways to reach out to me if you want to set up a consultation where you want to go through some of the things you're thinking about. That's also on my website, www.perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. And finally, like Rihanna says, shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright.
I love it.
It's the season. Shine bright.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure that information's in the show notes. For anyone listening who has had as much fun as I've had this episode, please take a moment and leave a review wherever you're listening. And Precious, thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, Queen. I've enjoyed every moment.
To continue learning how to better build your business and make your vision a reality, subscribe to the Welcome to Eloma email list at welcometoeloma.com.